Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Darrell Moore. You can call me DJ Moore. I'm also the Dean. I should say I have the privilege of being the Dean of the College of the Arts at UL Lafayette. And I have the pleasure to introduce our panel and moderators today to you. But before that, I'm going to just share some information with you. At the College of the Arts, we have the extraordinary privilege of witnessing young creatives take their first significant leap, sometimes with bold confidence, sometimes with cautious steps, but always with the potential to shape the cultural fabric of our region in profound ways. And again, I always kind of underscore it is a privilege to be in the position that I have because I get to see that, not just working with the students, but working with the outstanding faculty and staff at the university, and particularly in the College of the Arts. And behind almost every emerging artist who enters the College of the Arts, whether to study art, music, theater, dance, or architecture and design, there's a slightly nervous parent asking the timeless question, how in the hell are you going to get a job? Followed closely by, you are not moving back in with us, you have to support yourself. Now that's been going on, I'm going to say, since I've been in higher education, which is about 30 years now. Prior to that, working as a designer in New York City for over a decade, really, and it hasn't really changed. But there's some mythology to that, really, because but it doesn't seem to go away, and I'm hopeful that through these discussions today with the panel and the moderators, it'll assuage maybe some of those things and introduce some new information to continue to fight that, you know, to get rid of that mythology. But it lives, I can tell you. And so, and as I mentioned back when I was working in the industry and design and in New York City, it was the same thing, you know. So it hasn't gone away. It's one of the many fights we have to have, or challenges we have to have. In the realm of the arts. And to that, you know, there's a lot of data that supports how important the arts are to the economy, particularly regionally here, but also nationally, and how it strengthens that economy. The arts culture sector is a $730 billion industry, which represents 4.2% of the nation's GDP. A larger share of the economy than transportation, tourism, and agriculture. Now, maybe all of you were aware of that, but I suspect that maybe some of you were not. And that's really vital information. And I just wanted to share that with you. Now, that's all across the arts, all right, so in that sector. So it's a broad stroke data. But all joking aside, what happens next is often a definitive chapter in the life of an artist and that journey. The tension between pride, uncertainty, hope, and faith is exactly what this session is about. I'll also share with you that in my circle of friends and associates over the years, all in the arts, whether they've been working in higher education or painters, designers, across the disciplines, they've all been working, you know. And like anything else, getting a job and being competitive in that, and I'll say in the industry, in the creative industries, it's just that. It's very, very competitive. But the jobs are out there and the impact is being felt every day, not just in this region, but nationally and really internationally. So I think it's really important to underscore that. What you're seeing in students today, the value of creative risk, or how parents can be both skeptics and biggest fans, I think, you know, there's going to be some ammunition for that, for the parents in the audience and for, you know, aspiring young people who want to go into the arts. Creative entrepreneurs and their parents are well aware of the highs, lows, pivots, and possibilities that come with choosing an artistic path, as well as supporting someone else's. And to that point, you know, I didn't leave the industry or the area, the creative area that I was in because I couldn't get a job. That was a choice because 1,000 years ago. And so having that success was really, really important, and it gave me the confidence really to be productive once I got into higher education. But like anything, again, I'll go back to my earlier statement. It's really competitive. It's not easy. The arts are not easy. That's for sure. So now I'd like to introduce our panelists who are with us today, and I want to thank again for all of their participation, many of whom I know. And I'm happy to meet the new folks on the panel that I haven't met beforehand. We're joined on the stage by Ben Eble, a visual artist and recent graduate of the College of the Arts at UL Lafayette. That would be as recent as May. So why don't we give him a hand for that? He's joined by his father, Michael Eble, a visual artist in his own right, and our assistant dean in the College of the Arts. And along with being an exhibiting artist, he's an outstanding assistant dean, I would like to underscore. And it's really made a big difference in how we are trying to advance the College of the Arts. We are also joined by Noah Jamir. Did I pronounce that correctly? Great. Ms. Jamir, a New Orleans-based musician and songwriter. Her father, Curtis Hollinger, is an attorney and DJ. So he's a lawyer that spins records too, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sweet. And in the true spirit of intergenerational dialogue, this conversation will be co-moderated by two incredible women. Clare Cook, choreographer, arts leader, and founder of Basin Arts, and her mother, Nanette Cook, a longtime educator and former Lafayette City Parish Councilwoman. You can find their full bios on the ACA's website or by following the QR code on the back of the printed schedule. Before we get started, I invite each of you to take one small action. At your seat, you'll find a postcard, and I want you to write down one comment, something you're willing to do to support someone else's creative journey, or maybe your own. You can address it to yourself or to someone who needs a little reminder to believe in their creativity. Add it to the commitment wall before you leave, and in a few weeks, we'll mail it out as a small but powerful reminder. And the reminder is, every creative leap needs a landing net and a cheering section. Now for the panel. This might feel a little like group therapy. That's okay. We're just not sure if it's for the parents, the artists, or all of us. I think it's for all of us. Take it away, Nanette and Clare. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean Moore. Thank you so much. Hi, nice to be here with everybody. We have a lot to discuss, not that much time, so I think we're going to dive in. For some reason or another, my mom and I have been deemed moderators, so I don't know if we have survived the parent-artist relationship, surviving, but we've maybe been at it a little bit longer than our couples here. So we'll all share together our experiences. For the sake of this conversation, we'll keep it casual. We'll sort of delineate questions towards parents or towards artists, but I'm sure it'll all mush up in the best way. So let's roll.
Well, thank you, Claire. That was her nice way of saying we're the oldest in the crowd. So I'm the oldest parent in the crowd, which it seems like that's always the case lately, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to actually address the first question to the parents. And the first question is this: what is your relationship to the arts, and how do you feel about your child pursuing a creative career? And has that changed over time? I'll address that to y'all, and I'll put my little 2 cents in first, and we'll kind of go down the road. How did I feel about Claire pursuing a creative career? Very nervous at first, as typical a parent would be when you're sending your child off to a place where there's no really safety net. Claire went through school here, and basically, we introduced her to piano. We introduced her to, she had visual arts in school. we introduced her to dancing. So she basically had all those experiences, which I feel like as a parent, you want to give your children those experiences. So we basically began with that. And she pretty much kind of zoned in on the performance, the dance performance. And along with several wonderful mentors along the way, I will give Carol Delarue big credit for introducing Clare to opportunities outside of the city of Lafayette that she could go to in the summers. And so she began doing that and seeing the passion that she had for it. Of course, as a parent, you love seeing that in your child. So that was always something that I was never going to say, no, you can't do that. I guess I never thought she would take it to the level she took it. So when she told me she was going to move to New York and she was going to go to NYU, I was like, you great, go do it, you know? And she was going to do that on her own because we had 4 children behind her, so that was really not a financial option at our house. So I said, go get them, go get them. And so she actually did the application, went on to, try to get into NYU. And I will give her credit because I think she hounded that office every day calling them, am I in, am I in, till finally she got in. And so it was at that point, sure, I'm going to support it now. She did the work. She did the work to get herself over there. But when she packed that bag with the air mattress in it and moved to an apartment with a friend that nobody knew. She didn't even know her. I'm thinking, what, as a parent, is that good parenting? I don't know if that's good parenting or not. But to see her excitement about it, and of course, I guess I was biased, but she had talent. And so I thought, am I going to be the one to tell her she can't do it when I really felt like she had the talent to do it? And so I think as a parent, and I'm sure, I'm going to send the mic down, I feel like we all feel very nervous from it first. Where is this journey going to take you? Just the questions that the dean just said. Can you support yourself doing that? And to her credit, she never moved back home. So we checked that off the box. She never came back home until she came back home, but not at my house. So anyway, that was kind of the journey that was my journey with Clare and her journey, just encouraging her because I knew she wanted it. I knew she was talented and could do it. But, just that fear that any parent would feel when you send your child off to summer camp sometimes. You think, oh, my gosh, you're even nervous about that. So this was a big step as a parent to be able to let them do that. But, you sometimes just have to say, at that point, it was her choice. It was her decision. And you just, you drive them to the airport and you say goodbye, So anyway, that was basically my journey. Your turn.
Everybody hear me? Okay. So I'm a parent. I have 4 boys. Ben's my oldest. I'm also a practicing artist also. And I think my career in the arts has certainly been along the ladder of academia. I wanted to go to grad school. I got an MFA. I wanted to be a college professor. I wanted to teach painting. I did that. I was a faculty member for 13 years at the University of Minnesota. And then I had the opportunity to come back to UL Lafayette, which is kind of special when you're an alum of the school and you get to come back and work at that school. So I kind of lived this life within the arts via academia, and it's tough. It's competitive. It was hard for me to get in an MFA program. I'm a painter. A lot of y'all, when you think of an artist, you think of a painter. It was hard to get a tenure-track teaching job as a painter. There's only so many painting positions at a university, and I'm not, like, my life, it wasn't easy. I struggled a lot of applications. And so my first thought when Ben wanted to major in art was, I don't want him to struggle as hard as I had to struggle. And certainly I felt like, oh, there's some other majors Ben could go into that would be easier on him. And the more I looked back at it and I thought about it and we talked with my wife about it, I felt that if he was passionate about what he wanted and driven, he would be fine. And then also, we would be there to help him along the way, because certainly I would be able to provide a lot more knowledge to him to help him be successful in this field than I did. And so I'm kind of repeating myself. We met yesterday. I'm somewhat optimistic. I'm fearful also. I want him out of my house. I want him to live an independent life and utilize the degree that he has and be happy. Being in academia, I meet alum all the time, former graduates who say, yep, I don't make art anymore, or I didn't do anything with that useless degree, or this professor upset me so much I quit making art or being an architect. And so I live with those a lot when I think about my own child going into the arts. But you know, I have no hesitation to allow him to follow that path. There's plenty of parents out there, and I've been thinking about my grandparents a lot lately through this discussion, my own parents, my in-laws, that there are definitely parents out there that said, nope, you're not majoring in that. Nope, I'm not paying for that. No, you figure out the own way to get a degree in that and not be supportive. So I'm going to stop on there. I'm going to hand things off here.
Those are all great comments. My particular path mirrors both of those two stories, but I'm going to end with this. I'm 57 years old now, and I come from a lot of different experiences: tennis, law, business, education, all that stuff. And to answer the core question, definitely supported Noah Jamir, because I believe that having personal peace is the primary objective in a person's life. And if your child has a passion for pursuing the arts, whether it pays him or her a gazillion dollars, and he or she becomes in the same social economic status as Elon Musk or anybody else in the world or not, what's most important is a person's personal peace. And I believe that for my daughter, music is what gives her peace. I don't know of anything else in the world that satisfies her soul. And so artists go down a really, really tough road. It's non-traditional, it's unconventional, it's out there in the atmosphere sometimes. You can't really see it. And they hear a different voice. Like my son he's an artist. He draws, and he's an architect by, you say architect earlier. So, the way he thinks is different than some other people on the planet. And so they have to find their way. And the art way is not for the masses, but it is for those who have the ear and the heart for the art. So if your child has a passion for the art, put everything into him or her so that they can be on the road to their own personal peace, wherever that may lead them.
Thank you. Are the artists' children up here, are y'all sweating as uncomfortable as me, just being talked about by your parent on a stage? It's really interesting. Okay, so this is a question for the artists, not the children, the artists in the room. So, as the artists in the room, how, both of you are in your early 20s, you're kind of emerging in your career as a creative professional. How are you navigating something that happens to all of us in our 20s, no matter what career we're in? There's a space of individuation. So you have to sort of individuate. You have to find your own path in your life. And as an artist, finding a path in life often means sharing yourself, sharing parts of yourself in a public setting, whether it's with an audience or with a publication, whatever that might be. So how are both of you navigating that process, especially within the community of your family system? Like, how are you navigating evolution and individuation within your family as an artist locally, where your family's also living?
Okay, I'll give it a shot. I think that's a really great question. For me, I guess it's something I haven't quite mastered yet. I think I find that just taking action is the best way to kind of find out. So just continuing to make my art and to share it with the world is kind of just my way of learning more about who I am and my individuality. I have kind of different modes of expression, I guess you could say. Like, there's a side of me who is a performer, and there's a side of me that is totally not, and would rather just kind of create in my own little bubble. And there's another side of me that is strictly a writer. So I'm still trying to find kind of how each part of me plays a role in who I am and in what I want to say and in my purpose. But yeah, just the more I do, the more I learn. Yeah.
That's really great. The more you do, the more you learn. I guess the way I kind of navigate carving my own path is keeping a student mentality is very important to me, and always be willing to learn and learn new skills, and being open and to take on new challenges as well is definitely important to me. And I know that I have to be very open to whatever opportunities come to me, or whatever job that I may find. If I'm a social media manager or I'm a sign painter, I'm willing to really step out of my comfort zone and learn those new skills, because as I go on, I take those skills with me, which is, kind of my whole thought process. As I go, I will learn. I can take those skills with me, and those will help me find new opportunities. So, yeah.
I was going to say, you're going to answer that question too?
I'm the moderator. Sure, I will speak to that question. I think that it's an interesting moment because I, from here, was away 10 years, and I'm now what I'm in my flip year. So I'm now lived back in my hometown as long as I left my hometown. So there's an interesting sort of shift that's happening. Like, I'm no longer the girl that went away. I'm now like the person that lives here full time. And I think as an artist, no matter what age, you are called to evolve. That's part of what we do as creatives. So it's an interesting negotiation of evolving in a space where not only your parents, but your teachers, the people you grew up with, like sort of being able to meet someone for the first time, or meet someone you've known for your whole life and try to approach it like you're meeting someone new. So I think that's something that, whether that's your immediate family system or when we think about family system, like I've been sitting in a lot of the sessions today, and I kind of want to throw this question back to the group actually, is we talk a lot about, or a lot of the sessions today have talked about workforce development and sort of creating like data and value behind the role of arts and culture in our community, which is incredibly important. And when we all kind of get very granular, when you think about your family, there is data and we need data, but it becomes those very, very nuanced things about being vulnerable or being able to show yourself to someone else in a different way or not show yourself. And so I think I'm interested in talking more about sort of like not only the parent to child one-to-one relationship on this stage, but like if Lafayette is our parent, you know, like how are we fostering spaces where there is data and workforce development and something very like infrastructure driven to build those pathways for young people and young creatives to find jobs and to stay in the community, but also like for anyone, I'll throw it to the group, like what is the experience of also are you getting what you need on a very like granular level as a human from Lafayette if it's your art parent? You know, how do we let the city parent our young creatives? Question mark.
Who? You, me, you. Who? Okay, real quick. So, in our pre-meeting yesterday, I realized, and you just alluded to it, that basically all of us, to this question, left. New York, Interlochen, Michigan, Minnesota, Boston. So the artists ultimately, on this panel at least, for whatever reasons, had to leave Lafayette, and they've come back to some degree, but, you know, I mean, you got to go where the art is. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, I think we kind of phrased it yesterday about over the last, like, how does Lafayette change in the positives and the negatives, and I think the ACA has just grown so much in the 20, close to 20 plus years of providing more opportunities for professional development within the artists, and I think we're still trying to figure out that connection between our college students and getting them more involved with the ACA and thinking more about that leap from graduation day into the real world. So there's more of that. There's certainly better exhibition venues. I'm talking from in performance venues, and then there's things like Basin Arts and Bare Walls, and so I think certainly Lafayette has grown into much more of an artist hub on top of a tradition that was already there. Yesterday I came from New Orleans to Lafayette, and I was saying, growing up in New Orleans and wanting to enter the art world, it's a little intimidating, at least from where perspective I was coming from. And Lafayette provided just much more of a smaller community, a welcoming community, mentors, and especially to my experience at UL Lafayette. And I think that's one beauty. I'm watching Ben form relationships, even with his high school art teachers and prior high school teachers. Like, it's such a smaller community that he's able to kind of lean on them a little bit, but have those relationships moving forward. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and just to kind of like bounce off of it, I had already kind of said this yesterday and brought up the term like hobbyist versus lifer, and I think to explain what the difference is like a lifer kind of puts all their eggs into a basket and goes for it, and a hobbyist is kind of more, still has a passion for what they're doing, but it's not necessarily their life's mission, I guess you could say. And in my perspective, Lafayette is not really the place it's not really the place, in my opinion, for a musician who is a lifer. I think that it's a place to foster community and to build relationships, but it's really rare. I've actually never heard someone say, I want to be, I want to be this great musician, so I'm going to move to Lafayette, Louisiana. You know, you go where the opportunities are, which is typically the New Yorks and LAs, Nashville's, maybe even Seattle now. But yeah, you go where the opportunities are, where you know you can live and build a life off of your passion. So I'm not sure if Lafayette is a place for lifers, but I do think it is a place to start and to build community that'll last you a lifetime. I was just talking with a friend like an hour ago about like how great like starting here in Lafayette is. It really is a blessing to have a place like Lafayette to start. So I don't want to undermine that, but I don't think it's a place to be if you are a lifer.
I want to kind of bounce off that. I think just having that experience of getting out of Lafayette, seeing an entirely different place, either like, you know, across the country or, you know, you go to a different state, and making, you know, still applying those same fundamentals of making connections, being kind to others, and seeing what else the world has to offer for the arts, and seeing that and, you know, bringing it back here to Lafayette. That's also important. But I do think, and, you know, Lafayette, and, you know, as you were saying, Lafayette has a bit of ways to go for people to, you know, be a lifer, live off their passions and stuff like that.
One last comment. Right across the street from the ACA is a recording studio called Lockdown Studio. It's owned and run by a man named Mike Lockett. He's got 2 Grammys right here in Lafayette. He knows everybody in the music business. Everybody. I say that to say this. Lafayette may not be New York. It may not be California. It may not be Paris. It may not be whatever. But there's a saying, if you've got talent, they'll find you. So if you've got talent from Lafayette, then your talent will find people who can put you where you need to go. And so, yes, it's not New Orleans here in Lafayette, but there are people in this city that are tapped into the highest in the world in art. So don't let Lafayette squash your dreams. Do what you can do. Be as great as you can be in the city, and go where it takes you.
Thank you. I think reflecting on some of the earlier sessions, we talked in the first session about economic development, but talking a lot about awareness. So just always, like, for every person, whether you have a cultural opportunity or an artistic opportunity or a venue, so like always keeping that awareness at the forefront. So I think perhaps we're identifying space for growth in our community, and like if the young people in our community are still feeling like they can't succeed at their desired potential within our community, and yet we have like the highest per capita of Grammy winners, less New Orleans by like 3 Grammys or something, the last stat I read a couple years ago. So I think that becomes a bigger conversation of how is the value of our artist community perceived from the people that live within it. It's the artist among us, but so much so that we might not realize the knowledge that we're rubbing shoulders with at the grocery store or something like that, you know? And it's honestly, it's the same in a larger market. It's just there's a longer history perhaps of practice. You're still running into a Grammy winner at the grocery store, maybe in Los Angeles, but it's just a bit larger market. I think you probably want to say something. Okay. Well, I know we're running out of time, but I'll give it to you.
Well, I was going to go to the next on script because it kind of touched on what we're talking about, how Lafayette has evolved. I grew up here. I left for a couple of years. I didn't go out to New York or anything exciting. I went to Baton Rouge to go to school, but I came back, and and spent most of my life in Lafayette. And really, I'm trying to think culturally. We had Mardi Gras, and there was always, downtown music and things like that at that event. We didn't have any kind of festivals at that time. We had a performing arts center where we did dance reviews. We did not have a Broadway series that came to Lafayette when I was growing up. So Lafayette has evolved a lot in the culture. This building was probably someone's dream, but it wasn't a reality. So we didn't have Basin Arts. We didn't have all the things now that are helping to actually cultivate the arts in our community. So I feel like, we have come a long way. To Curtis's point, I think there are people from this community that have made it. I mean, I think of Lauren Daigle. I mean, people in our community that, like we talk about the arts, it's any kind of arts, performance, visual, it is hard to make it. And you have, you could have all the talent in the world, but it's still hard to make it maybe big like people think they want to make it big. So, but I think Lafayette recognizes talent more so than they did in the past. I think we have more opportunities for you to go see the talent now in our community, which I think that's such an important part. And when we talk about community and community support and building the arts, I'm not a performing artist of any kind, but I love the arts in terms of going to the arts. And I think I'm a consumer, so we need more consumers. That's very important for us to put it out there so that people have the opportunity to go see a performance, go check out the local museum for the arts. So, and those opportunities were not there when I was growing up. So Lafayette has evolved, through the years. So, I believe we're going in the right direction, hopefully for the young artists that want to come, for the performing artists that are still here. Because like any parent, they go away, and it's good that they go away. It's good that they go, take their skills and learn more about their skills and their passions and improve their talent. But we as parents want them to come back. We want them to come back in our community because they are talented, and we need you guys to come back because this is the talent, and homegrown talent is super special because that they have this passion for the community too, but they're also, that talent is back in the community for us to, as consumers, to enjoy. So I don't know if y'all want to add anything to the evolution of Lafayette, but that's kind of been my experience.
I was thinking this morning, about everything, and we have we have a great culture here, and we know it. But I always think about that there's so many great things happening. We should raise it, and when we promote Lafayette, it shouldn't always be about the food and someone on an accordion and a scratch board and someone twirling. It's like I'm done with that. Like, there's so much more here. There's contemporary dance. There's theater. There's contemporary art that doesn't fulfill a regional scope. There's music all over, whether it be metal, hip-hop, digital, film, you name it. It's like we need to set a bar higher for what Lafayette is, I think, to grow. And also in regards to spaces, I think we have phenomenal spaces. I did a 2-week residency in New Orleans a couple weeks ago, so I spent a lot of time in New Orleans. And I would walk into a space and I'd be like, this is the place that people in Lafayette talk about showing in? That's a big deal? I was like, it's kind of a dump, And I was like, man, New Orleans is big and lots of opportunities, and a lot more people, but I feel Lafayette is kind of a sleeper. And when you talk to people in New Orleans, they don't know anything about Lafayette because they never leave New Orleans because, everything's there. And I grew up there, so I'm a native. I can say these things. But, it's like we have so much here, and I think if we think about it even bigger and a higher bar for what our expectations are of the arts, we could even grow more.
I think we need to, do we have time for a few questions? Okay, we do have time for a few questions. Molly's going to be walking around with microphones, so we will make space for that now. This could go on for hours, for decades, but question.
So my question would be, from any of you, what is it that Lafayette can do differently that they aren't doing now to have that vision that you all have for where we'd like to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Because we obviously have a great foundation, and we're not New Orleans, we're Lafayette. So what is it we can do? Anybody?
I think you touched on this when it comes to awareness. Because I graduated from UL like a couple weeks ago, and I still just feel like I have not gotten down to the roots of Lafayette. I feel like I'm still scratching the surface of the opportunities that are in store for me here. But I'm applying to jobs in Baton Rouge. I'm applying to jobs in New Orleans. I'm looking at Shreveport, and I still feel like there has to be something here for me to do. Not just an occupation-wise, but an opportunity-wise, or volunteer-wise, something like that. I still feel like just awareness and getting it out there is maybe a component we're missing.
Do you want to add anything, Noah, to that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I have really thought of a comprehensive answer, or yeah, I guess I'll kind of second what I've heard so far.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of echo the awareness again, and awareness and collaboration. So I think now, I mean, even the difference between 10 years, 20 years past, now we have more spaces. Now we have funding, question mark, but we have more spaces that are contributing direct emphasis to our artistic programs. But now we also are starting to see perhaps some duplicity in things, which is making it hard for a young person to understand what they can have access to. So I would like to see creating more awareness by more collaboration. So multiple agencies or multiple artists coming together to create a program that reaches perhaps 3 different sectors of the community and provides an opportunity for more people, but also with more awareness, so that a young person, when they think of a residency, an artistic residency, they think of maybe one opportunity, but it touches maybe 3 or 4 different organizations and sort of maximizes funding in that space, perhaps.
You know what, I'm going to open up a can of worms, but anyway, I'd love to see a study of how much money people put into youth sports versus youth art programs in this community. I also want to count every batting cage in all of Acadiana, and I want to know how many batting cages there are. Because let me tell you, if we put up of your kid becoming a Major League Baseball player or first row in a symphony, I don't know, it's pretty close.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I think, with youth arts, thinking about youth dance, competitive dance in the sector for youth is almost more parallel to youth sports than it is to something else. But that's a commercial industry built upon the model of indoctrinating, in a positive way, hopefully, but telling children that they need to learn from someone that's outside of their environment, which is an important part of an education. But if you're telling middle schoolers that the way in which you achieve success through sports or dance is to leave town and go learn from a 20-year-old from somewhere else instead of, a teacher within your own community, but we're not also involving those children in a youth competitive dance program, perhaps within their own community, identifying what are the needs and how do we engage those children in serving the needs within our own community. I feel like that's where we're missing a mark too. We're hyper specialized in youth programming, whether it's sports or arts or anything, but we're sort of so focused on the children's development as a technician that we're sort of losing the education part of how they can be a community member as a creative participant and then therefore inspired to give back as an artist. Okay, I'm getting the signal that we're done, so. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all. Sure we'll stick around, so if you have more to discuss. Thank y'all so much for having us, and on to the next session.